What if the greatest source of human suffering isn't, poverty or disease or natural disasters, but actually, well, the simple comforting belief that you are absolutely right?
Right, the illusion of certainty.
Exactly. Welcome to today's deep dive where we're going to completely dismantle everything you think you know with absolute certainty.
It is a seriously wild ride.
It really is. I mean, we spend our whole lives trying to get on solid ground, right? We collect facts, we form our worldviews, and we build this intellectual fortress where we can finally say, I understand how things work.
Yeah, we want to feel secure in our knowledge.
But the source material we are wading into today suggests that this exact feeling of certainty is actually a massive trap.
It really is the ultimate intellectual humbling. The text we're looking at is a fascinating, mind-bending philosophical essay by an author named Shuifeng.
Written on September 24th, 2025, right?
Yes, exactly. And it has this incredibly provocative title, A Test to See Whether You Are a Frog at the Bottom of a Well. And it basically challenges the very foundation of human confidence.
That title is doing a lot of heavy lifting. Let's unpack the core metaphor here, because usually calling someone a frog in a well is just like a polite way of calling them uncultured.
Right, like an ancient idiom for someone who lacks worldly experience. Or just basic trivia.
Yeah, but the way Shuifeng applies it to the modern human condition is far more jarring, I think.
Oh, absolutely. According to this text, a frog in a well is not just someone missing a few facts. It is someone who judges the entire universe based on a tiny, isolated sliver of data.
Wow.
And crucially, the text defines the frog as someone who predicts tomorrow solely from today, operating on this unshakable assumption that the future just must behave exactly like their limited experience of the present.
It's like, think of human certainty like a flashlight in a pitch-black cavern. That flashlight illuminates maybe a 3-foot circle on the ground.
A very small circle.
Right, and we stand there fiercely arguing over the exact shape of a rock inside that circle, completely ignoring the fact that the cavern itself is entirely unmapped and stretches for miles.
Yes, the problem Shuifeng is pointing out isn't the rock. The problem is our sheer arrogance about the darkness around it.
And we project our limited data onto that infinite unknown, treating our, microscopic sample size as absolute reality.
Exactly. If you use your narrow perspective to make definitive final judgments about the past, the present, or the future, Shuifeng argues that you are the frog.
Which it's incredibly close to home for you listening and for us right now. I mean, we are all drowning in information overload today.
Oh, it's nonstop.
We absorb millions of data points every day through our screens, and it feels paralyzing. But maybe that overwhelm doesn't come from knowing too much.
Right, maybe we feel overwhelmed because deep down we sense we are just frogs sitting in the mud.
Desperately trying to construct a cohesive worldview in a universe that operates on a scale we cannot even begin to comprehend.
So to figure out if we are actually frogs in a well, the author says we first have to measure exactly how deep our well is.
Okay, where do we start?
Well, Shuifeng methodically measures our physical and conceptual place in reality. He sets up what we might call an escalating ladder of perspective, starting with our physical place on Earth.
And it starts out feeling very familiar, right?
Yeah.
Like geographic snobbery.
Yeah, it shows that arrogance is entirely relative. The text notes that people living in a small town might laugh at those in a remote mountain village, viewing them as frogs in a well.
But then the people in the county seat laugh at the small town residents.
Right, the ladder just continues up. The great metropolitan city residents laugh at those in the county seat.
And it peaks on Earth with the world traveler, the person who has crossed oceans and seen every continent. They laugh at the city dwellers.
At each step, the person with a slightly wider radius of travel feels this unshakable sense of superiority over the person below them.
But just when you think the world traveler is standing at the summit of human perspective, the text suddenly yanks the camera back.
It really does. We shift from geography to cosmology, and the scale just breaks wide open.
It's amazing. Shuifeng introduces these esoteric cosmic realms. He states that people living in what he calls the 1,000-year world laugh at the people of Earth.
And it ascends from there. The text states that people in the 10,000-year world laugh at those in the 1,000-year world.
Wait, there's more, right?
Oh, yeah. Ultimately, beings in the Elysium world laugh at those in the 10,000-year world.
When Shuifeng uses terms like the Elysium world or the 1,000-year world, I feel like we shouldn't just picture, sci-fi planets.
No, not at all. He is constructing a non-material framework, a map of consciousness where physical time and space start to dissolve.
The sheer scale of it shatters our baseline reality. I mean, you go from feeling superior because you backpacked across Europe, to being literally a rounding error in a cosmic hierarchy.
And the text drives this home with some absolutely mind-boggling measurement. Xu Feng brings in something he calls the Celestial Islands continent, stating that from its perspective, absolutely everyone on Earth is a frog at the bottom of a well. Everyone. And if you zoom out just to our Milky Way galaxy, Earth itself is smaller than the mouth of a well.
And then we get the sesame seed comparison, which is where the math it stops computing for the human brain.
It really does. According to the text, from the perspective of the spiral river system and the Dharma spiral system, Earth is less than 1/10,000th the size of a single sesame seed.
Wow. 1/10,000th of a sesame seed.
And here is the critical distinction the author makes. Earth, with all its oceans and continents that seem so vast to us, exists entirely within the material realm.
Right.
Xu argues that the immensity of the non-material world, the realms of consciousness, energy, and spiritual reality, is fundamentally beyond the imagination of humanity.
Okay, wait, I have to jump in with a pushback here.
Go for it.
If humanity knows virtually nothing about this Dharma spiral system, and if the non-material world is totally invisible and mathematically beyond our comprehension, isn't it a bit unfair to call us frogs for not understanding something invisible?
I hear you.
I mean, you can't blame someone for not describing a color that is outside the visible light spectrum.
That is the natural defense mechanism kicking in, for sure.
Yeah.
But it misinterprets the author's point. It's not about the lack of knowledge itself.
Okay, then what is it?
Being ignorant of the Dharma spiral system doesn't inherently make you a frog. What makes you a frog is the arrogance.
Uh-huh.
It's assuming that because your eyes can't process that color, the color cannot possibly exist. You assume your spectrum is the only one in the entire universe.
So it all comes back to the flashlight in the cavern. The crime isn't standing in the dark. The crime is claiming that your 3-foot circle of light is the entire universe.
Exactly. That is the core mechanism of the essay. It's the definitive judgments we make based on our microscopic view.
Makes a lot of sense.
And that's why the text argues that calling Earthlings frogs at the bottom of a well is actually far too generous.
Giving us too much credit.
Way too much credit. So Feng writes that it is more accurate to call humans frogs beneath a sesame seed, or even frogs beneath the tip of a needle.
Frogs beneath the tip of a needle. Wow. So if our physical footprint and our material reality is just a fraction of a sesame seed, what does that mean for, well, the greatest intellectuals, leaders, and minds in human history?
That brings us right to the central thesis of the essay, the author's ultimate conclusion. Xu Feng writes, "The moment you become convinced that you are right, you have already gone wrong."
Let me repeat that. The moment you become convinced that you are right, you have already gone wrong.
Because a frog at the bottom of a well cannot possibly comprehend the vast universe correctly. Since humanity's understanding of the non-material world is less than a fragment, anything we claim to know with absolute certainty is inherently flawed.
Just flawed by its own limitation.
Exactly.
And the text is incredibly strict about this, right? In fact, Xu Feng claims there are only 3 exceptions in all of human history.
Yeah, just 3 figures who truly understood everything correctly or acted flawlessly.
Jesus, Shakyamuni Buddha, and Laozi.
Right. And it is notable that those 3 specific figures built their teachings around the non-material world.
Emphasizing the ultimate paradox of knowing nothing, or surrendering the ego's need for material certainty.
Exactly. Everyone else in history, according to this framework, was operating under the delusion of certainty.
And to prove this, the text asks who else was actually right, by contrasting some incredibly extreme, highly charged, historical and political figures.
Yeah, he really goes there.
Now, to be completely clear to you listening, as we walk through this next section, we are strictly looking at his philosophical framework. We are neutrally reporting the author's list.
Yes. We are absolutely not taking sides or endorsing these viewpoints or validating these specific historical comparisons in any way.
Right, we're simply conveying the source material. But Xu Feng asks the reader to look at these polarizing figures and ask who actually possessed absolute truth. The text contrasts Hitler versus Roosevelt.
And Stalin versus Mao Zedong.
Saddam Hussein versus Nicolae Ceausescu.
By placing those names side by side like that, the author forces the reader to recognize that human history is largely a bloody clash of absolute certainties.
When conflicting realities collide, and neither side possesses intellectual humility, the result is just destruction.
And he doesn't let the intellectuals off the hook either.
Right. The text moves from geopolitical dictators to our most revered thinkers. It continues its contrasts. It asks, were the philosophers right, Or the great thinkers.
Were the economists right or the sociologists?
It even asks if Socrates and Plato were right, or if Hayek and the 3 recipients of the 2024 Nobel Prize in Economic Sciences were right.
This is a direct critique of modern science and academia, which, serves as our society's ultimate bedrock of truth today.
Yes, science is our modern certainty.
Right. But Shefeng points out the blind spots. He asks some foundational questions. Do scientists, even Nobel laureates, know the origin of consciousness?
No,
Do they know what life with a capital L truly is?
not really no.
Do they have the unified field equation of the universe?
Definitely no.
Therefore, the text concludes, they too are frogs at the bottom of a well. They are just frogs who have meticulously cataloged the mud on their walls.
That brings up a specific comparison in the text that completely reframes how we view intelligence. The essay asks, was the shepherd right, or the university professors?
Oh, that's a great one.
Because in our daily lives, we worship credentials. The gap in knowledge between a shepherd in a field and a panel of university professors seems insurmountable to us.
Huge gap.
But let me use an analogy here. Think about the mechanism of intelligence on a cosmic scale. If a giant is looking down at a sesame seed, and on that seed, there is a microscopic mountain and a microscopic valley.
Okay, I'm with you.
To a bug living on the seed, the mountain is terrifyingly huge. But to the giant looking at a sesame seed, the difference in height between a shepherd and a Nobel laureate is exactly 0. Is the author saying that on a cosmic scale, human intellect is completely leveled?
That is exactly the point. When measured against the infinite unknown of the Dharma spiral system and the non-material world, the intellectual difference between the shepherd and the Nobel laureate mathematically rounds down to 0. They are both guessing. On a cosmic scale, both are frogs beneath the tip of a needle.
It just strips away all the vanity of human achievement, doesn't it? We are so proud of our wide wells, our advanced degrees, our sophisticated economic models.
Right.
But it makes me wonder if even the Nobel laureate is just a frog beneath a needle. Is this just an abstract philosophical exercise? Or is there an actual real-world danger to this ignorance?
Oh, the danger is intensely real. This is where the essay shifts from cosmology into the actual cost of being right.
What's the immediate relevance to the listener?
According to the text, absolute certainty doesn't just make you ignorant, it makes you dangerous. The text explicitly states that all conflicts, social unrest, and wars in human society are initiated by people who firmly believe that they alone are right.
I mean, you don't march an army across a border if you think your geopolitical theory might be slightly flawed.
Exactly. You only initiate that level of violence if you are unquestioningly certain that your perspective is the singular objective truth.
But this doesn't just apply to generals and politicians. The text brings this dynamic straight into your everyday life.
Yeah, the interpersonal relevance is huge here. The essay notes that even among ordinary people, disharmony in relationships happens simply because each side insists on being right.
Think about the last intense argument you had with a partner or a friend or a coworker. Maybe it started over something trivial, like a household chore.
Or of a minor mistake at work.
Right. But within minutes, it escalated. If you strip away the surface details, what was actually happening? It was 2 people fiercely defending their own microscopic slice of reality.
The friction wasn't about the dishes. The friction was 2 people refusing to admit that their view of the situation might be incomplete.
And that insistence on being right is identified by the text as the origin of humanity's distress, suffering, anxiety, sorrow, and fear.
It is a staggering claim.
Yeah, that our anxiety doesn't primarily stem from external circumstances, but from our rigid, white-knuckled grip on our own correctness.
When you hold on to absolute certainty in a universe that is vastly unknown, non-material, and constantly in flux, you are fundamentally resisting reality itself. You are spending all your energy trying to force the infinite universe to fit inside your 3-foot circle of flashlight.
Of course, that generates anxiety and fear.
Which leads to what the author sees as the ultimate barrier. The text claims that the reason Earth has not become a paradise for life is precisely because those who believe themselves unquestionably right have obstructed and resisted its realization.
The very people who are most certain they are fixing the world are the ones actually preventing it from becoming a paradise.
Their certainty creates the walls that trap us.
Okay, wait. I have to pose a logical paradox here. I have to stop right here because the logic is sort of eating its own tail.
Okay, what is it?
If the author's rule is that anyone who believes with absolute certainty that they are right has already gone seriously astray, isn't the author being absolutely certain about that specific rule?
I see what you mean.
By declaring that every scientist, every politician, and every philosopher is a frog in a well, isn't he implicitly claiming to be the one guy standing outside the well, looking down at the rest of us? How does he escape his own trap?
It is a massive structural paradox, you're right, and to the author's credit, he actually answers that paradox. The resolution is found at the very end of the essay, acting as a personal confession from Xufeng himself.
Oh, really? He addresses the hypocrisy
He
directly.
does. He reveals this final twist. Xufeng admits that whenever he speaks of others as frogs at the bottom of a well, he suddenly realizes that he too is a frog at the bottom of a well.
He admits he is sitting in the mud with the rest of us.
He fully accepts his limitations, but he adds one crucial caveat to his confession.
What's that?
He says, the only difference is that the mouth of my well happens to be a little larger.
The mouth of my well happens to be a little larger. That completely reframes the entire essay.
It really does. He isn't claiming to possess the ultimate objective truth of the Dharma spiral system. He is just claiming a slightly wider awareness of his own profound ignorance.
And that awareness is the operational key. You cannot expand the mouth of your well until you first recognize the mud on your walls.
So, to summarize the value for you listening, the true shortcut to being well-informed in our modern world isn't about memorizing every fact in the universe.
Not at all.
It's about maintaining profound intellectual humility. Giving up the need to be right is what actually frees you from anxiety and interpersonal conflict.
It frees you from the exhaustion of defending an illusion. But this text leaves us with one final provocative thought to mull over, something that builds on the text when we look toward the future.
Ooh, what happens next?
Well, if the mouth of our well has historically been defined by human perception and biology,
Yeah.
what happens as artificial intelligence or future technology exponentially expands our perspective?
Oh, wow. Because we are building tools designed to process data on a galactic scale right now. Exactly. So will this new technology finally allow us to look out and see the whole sky? Or will we just realize we are sitting at the bottom of an even bigger, more complex well?
Are we escaping the cavern or just buying a slightly wider flashlight and getting even more arrogant about the rocks we can see?
Scary thought.
It really is. The desire for solid ground is a deeply human instinct. But maybe the most courageous thing we can do is look down at our tiny puddle, admit we have absolutely no idea how deep it really goes, and just appreciate the reflection of the stars on the surface. Giving up the need to be right is where the real freedom starts. Keep your minds open, hold on to your certainty lightly, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.